Hey everyone, it's Ollie Lindley here from One Number, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to take a look at 10 fundamental Excel concepts that are going to help you get started with Excel today. So you can download this workbook. It's in the description below if you want to follow along. Otherwise, fire up your own copy of Excel and apply this as we go. Okay, so the first thing that I think is so important and really changed the game for me is learning about Excel tables. Now, a table in Excel is not as simple as a rectangular array of data in cells. A table is sort of a predefined area in your Excel workbook that contains data, and what's so cool about it is it has its own unique set of properties that makes your life easier. And I'll show you some of those now. So I just selected my whole, all the data that I want. I'm just going to copy and paste it into here just so you can see exactly my process, and I'm just going to paste the values. So this is just, perhaps this is what your workbook looks like. There's nothing special going on. We might think we've got a table. But what I would say is this, if we're going to work with Excel like this, perhaps we're not going to get all the value out of it that we could. So we're going to Command A, Control A if you're on Windows, select all the values, and then we've got two options. One is to press Command T, the other is go to Insert, the Insert ribbon, and select Table. Both of those are going to bring up this little menu where we define the array, all the data in our table, and we're going to make sure that we've selected the fact that we've got headings in our table, if you do, of course. A heading would just be the first row of my table has information different to the rest of the column in such a way that it's describing the information in the column, right? So here I've got postal code as row E1, and then all the actual postal codes down in there. Okay, so that would count as headers. I'm going to click OK. Kapow, we've got our first Excel table. Now, the cool thing about this in Excel table is that you can apply a whole bunch of formatting super easily. So like we can choose colors, we can choose whether we want banded rows or not, whether we want a header row or not. We can insert slices and remove duplicates and a whole bunch of cool things that you just have to go through more steps to achieve otherwise. You can also reference columns in your calculations really easily, just with a normal English reference like @model as opposed to H2 or whatever it would be. But maybe that's a little bit further than we're going to go today. But the super cool thing with a table that I want to show you now, and this brings us to the second thing that I think is really helpful to know in Excel, is filtering and sorting. So each of these column headers has a little drop down, and if we click the drop down, it brings up our filtering and sorting menu. So the first thing we can do is filter our table. So let's choose a car model. So what if we choose the Ioniq 5? Okay, now we can see here are all our Ioniq 5s. Very cool. And we can see 2,432 out of 177,000 records found. Each of these indicates, the little lines, the thick lines between the rows indicates information that's been hidden. So these are all the rows that are not Ioniq 5s. You can also kind of layer filters on top of each other. So we want to filter by Ioniq 5 and, whatever it is, we can just keep going. You can also filter based off of a cell color, font color, cell icon, things like that, which is super helpful when you want to isolate that kind of information. The other thing we could do is sort. So what if we sorted our electric range by descending, meaning we're going to filter our data by the electric range biggest to smallest. So the cars that can go the furthest to the cars that can go the least, probably 0. Do we have any zeros in here? Yeah, a lot of zeros, so that is bad. If you want to sort of dive into filtering and sorting in a little bit more detail, you can go to the sort and filter menu in the home ribbon. So again, you select your data and we sort and filter it by our custom sort over here. We can clear our filters, and you can clear your sorts, but it's not going to reorder your data. So it's kind of going to clear the logic applied to the sort, but it's not actually going to look particularly different. Okay, what about freezing panes? Freezing rows and columns kind of looks like when you scroll down right? Do you see how this kind of appears up the top? This is pretty useful. Sometimes you want to do it for more than just a header row. So the way that we'd do that is we'd select the row underneath the one that we want to freeze. And then we're going to go to this view ribbon, and here we can freeze our top row. Okay, and now as I scroll down, you can see we've got a blue frozen top row. We can freeze our first column if we want to keep the VIN number all the way across or something. So now we've frozen our first column, and our top row. Ooh, very cool. Okay. The other thing we can do is unfreeze those panes straight away by selecting them over there. Maybe the one thing that I'd point out to you is we've got the option to split our workbooks over here. I don't know if you've ever done this before, but by selecting a cell in like a random place, will I be able to do this? Yeah, I can. Cool. So let's say I select this cell, and if I select split, what's going to happen is Excel is going to split my workbook into almost like 4 individual worksheets, and I can scroll through each one and get them exactly right. So it's like each of these, as I scroll through each one, they don't all scroll, but I can get them in exactly the right place to compare and contrast data as I go. That could be really useful if you need a little bit more than just freezing, a top row or column or just a particular number of panes. Then what about some field formatting? Super cool. Okay, so where we're gonna go is the home ribbon, and just in general, we've got the option to choose the actual data formatting over here, which is super useful. And you can see the sheer number of data formats that we have available to us. So let's think of a good one. I think Excel's not going to like us changing this model year 2020 from general into a date because we don't have enough time. Yeah, it's defaulted to the default date. Okay, that's fine. But I guess what I want to show you is we've got some numbers, we've got some text in here, and if we want anything else, we can go to some more number formats and choose from some custom formats and really make sure that that number is exactly what we want to see. So definitely take a look at that. So helpful to make sure all your data is in the right format and it's not all just general, And once Excel has applied these particular data formats to your column, you'll be able to make use of that as well as possible. Okay, cool. Then what's the last one? Should we do some conditional formatting? Conditional formatting is super cool. So what this means is I'm going to select my electric range column. Let's just head back to the top here. In the home ribbon, I'm going to go to conditional formatting, and we've actually got a lot of options right here. Highlight cell rules allows us to highlight cells that meet a particular criteria or condition. So, if the electric range is greater than 300, highlight those. Or, if the date occurs later than the 25th of August, 2023, whatever that is. Top or bottom rules is going to highlight the top 10% with a dark red fill, something like that is super cool. The other thing that we could do, let's just clear our rules. The other thing that we could do is add like some data bars or color scales, things like that. How do data bars work? They basically just take the range of the values in the column that you've selected and create a bar relative to that number in comparison to the whole column, right? So if we were to choose this blue data bar, you can see, 337 is the biggest value. And as we scroll down, that bar is getting slightly shorter. There we go. Now you can kind of see we've got a massive data set here as we go down. So it's pretty cool to be able to do something like that. But hey, maybe we want to say, not that. Maybe we want to say, okay, instead of a data bar, show me, this color scale from green to red. So red being super bad. And we go all the way down. Oh, did I clear my bars? No, I didn't. From my selected cells. From the selected cells. Let's clean everything up and then put in our little heat map, color scales. Okay, let's see this again. Nice. So now, as our data bars are resetting all the way down, it's just because it's so monstrous. Perfect. Okay, so that's super cool. Now it's something like a heat map, right? Kind of running from green down to red. So there are just so many wonderful options that we have here from our selected cells. Okay, so that's the home ribbon, conditional formatting. Fantastic. And just again, you have so many options as you go through. You can also input your own rules. So if for some reason, hey, this isn't quite right, you can add a new rule and put it in exactly the way that you want. All right. Let's go back to this one because I've got a little column to demo some stuff. So what about using some aggregations in Excel? Well, the way that we do that is we're going to start any sort of calculation that we're going to write in Excel with an equal sign. And that just indicates to Excel, cool, you're about to input some, some functions into this cell. So we could say, what is the average of my electric range? And let's select the whole range. So all we've said is average of the electric range, and I selected the whole range, and we hit OK. And now I can see, oh, interesting. This is in a date format, which I do not want. Let's make this number, or maybe just general for the moment. Okay, that's fine. So the average electric range is 58.84 miles. So that's using that little average function. What if we were to say something like, let's clean this up so we can start with another function. So aggregations, let's back up. Aggregations would be something like sum, average, max, min. What is the max electric range? Let's select the column again. The max electric range is 337. So we can begin to do some of our little analysis in there. We can also use some logic functions. So we can say something like, let's use the if function. So we can say if, what are we going to say? If the make equals Tesla, then Elon made this. And if it doesn't, right now, do you see how as we write out this function in Excel, Excel's giving us a syntactical test, right? It's kind of saying, hey, if you fill in these different elements of the syntax, I know what to do and I'll spit out the right answer. So we're saying, right, here's our little logical test. Does the make equal Tesla? And if it's true, then it's going to output the string, Elon made this. And if not, then we're going to say, no Elon for you, and close those brackets. And now we can see, oh, cool, Elon made this. And as we drag it down, it's just testing each row against our little test. And if Elon made it, then that's our output, right? If the make equals Tesla, then that's our output, which is pretty cool. Here's something that's pretty interesting. What about the COUNTIF function? Do you know this one? It's pretty cool. Basically, we give Excel a range. So we're going to say something like, let's select our makes. Oh, I actually didn't need to even select the whole column. Just one cell would be fine. And we're going to say, does make equal Tesla? So if make equals Tesla, count it, right? That's how the COUNTIF works. You choose your range and you give it a value to look for in that range. And now we're going to see we have 79,000 Teslas. Very cool. In comparison to, I don't know, let's look for a Nissan. 0 Nissans? Oh, it's not in a string. That's why. Almost 14,000 Nissans, too short of 14,000 Nissans. So that's super cool. That's the COUNTIF function. So we've looked at aggregations. We've looked at these two logic functions, if, COUNTIF. There are lots of other logic functions, sum if, but definitely take a look at those. Super, super useful. Okay, what about some strings? I I don't know if you've seen the concat function, but basically what it allows us to do is combine multiple strings together. So what we could say is, right, take our first string, Tesla, and then how do I want this to appear? Maybe I want the make, and then I want a colon and a space, and then I want the model. So I'm going to say, take the make, and then I'm going to put a comma, and then in a string, in between quotation marks, I'm going to put a colon, space, my next quotation mark, and then a comma, and my model. And what that's going to do is I'll put a string that looks something like this. So as I drag that down, this is now a combination of 3 strings, right? It's a combination of the make, it's a combination of the colon space, and it's a combination of the model. Okay, I think the last little function family that we're going to look at is dates. Dates are super, super useful, especially if you wanted to build something like a line chart. You need dates to work with that. At the moment, our date field in here is just the general date format. Do you see that? So nothing spectacular, but Excel's not really going to be able to work with this. So what we need to do is create some dates out of it. Now, I think what the best thing to do would be to truncate all those dates to the first day of the month, of the first month of each year, right? Because that's all we have. We don't have month information or day information. So we're just going to say equals date, and then the year is going to be our model year, and the month is going to be 1, and the day is going to be 1. You don't talk about it too much, but I'm just saying to Excel, hey, take all those years and just act as if they happened on the first day of Jan. And we hit OK. And now this is a date field. Very, very cool. Okay, I like this. The big benefit of this is being able to build various views and things like that. Okay. Lastly, let's take a look at some pivot tables and then how to build some charts from a pivot table. Pivot tables, I don't know, are kind of infamous, but it doesn't really seem fair. They're so useful. So what we're going to do is select our data. So you can just hit Control A and then Control A again to select your heading. And then I'm going to insert, go to this little insert ribbon, and I'm going to select pivot table like that. Okay, so what's Excel asking for now? It's just saying, hey, select your table, right? Make sure that you selected the right information, and where do you want to put this? So I'm going to say, just in a new worksheet, please. And we're going to hit OK. So what exactly is a pivot table? A pivot table is a super useful means by which we can take pre-existing data and analyze it by slicing it up in different ways. It also allows us to count things super easily. It allows us to swap our data around from rows to columns to measures without too much admin. Let me show you what I mean. So if we wanted to answer the question, hey, how many cars do we have by manufacturer? Maybe something like that. What could we do? We could say, right, let's look at our makes. So by checking make, what happens? Excel immediately says, well, I can just give you a count of make, which is not really what I want. I think what I want is to put make on rows like this. Very interesting. So now I've got a count of make for each of our makes. Very, very cool. Okay, what if we wanted to do, I don't know, put model onto values as well? Well, because we don't have model in our view, right, on our rows, it's just spitting out the same information. If we wanted to see exactly how many cars we have per model, we'd also have to drop model onto rows like this, right? So now we have the, the make at the top, and then all the models, then the make and all the models, down like that, which is pretty cool. Let's see, we can also filter this super easily. So we could filter this by city, drag city onto filters, and we can hit this drop down and select, Alexandria. Very cool. Okay, use pivot tables wherever you can. Just jokes. They're super, super useful and powerful analytical tools. Okay, finally, if we want to create a chart from any of this information, there are actually so many ways that we could do this. What we could do is go to Insert, we can go to Charts over here, and let's suppose we want this little 2D column. Okay, beautiful. Beautiful, that looks chaotic. Why does it look so chaotic? Because we have so many makes and models in here. So we should probably filter this down a little bit to get the most out of our chart. So let's do this for Aberdeen. Oh, we got both Aberdeens. Let's do it for one. Very, very cool. Okay, and we can play around with this a little bit more, right? If we go to design, we can get the actual colors to change. We can play around with how we want this all laid out. Very, very cool. Maybe the last thing I want to show you is slices. So when you insert a slicer, let's do this for make. The cool thing about a slicer is it's kind of like a very easily interactive menu that allows you to filter your data as soon as possible in a very user-friendly way. So what that means is, hey, if we wanted to see this information just for Teslas, I could click on my little Tesla slider and that changes my information here. Okay, there is so much more that we could take a look at in Excel, but hopefully this has been helpful just to get an idea of how Excel thinks about data, right? It likes data inside a table format. We can filter that, we can freeze our panes and columns, we can format our fields, we can insert conditional formatting, we've looked at pivot tables, and then just a little introduction to some calculations, some ifs and COUNTIFs and aggregations and things like that. If you have any questions on this stuff, pop it in the comments below. We'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. But I'm sure there'll be a little bit more Excel content coming your way soon. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. Keep well until next time.